What's up guys, Sleepy here. So I thought I'd take the time to go over the 4 reworked league mechanics that we are getting into 0.5. These are mainly going to be Expedition, Delirium, Breach, and then lastly Ritual. So I'll be going over the quest chains and what to do leading up to the Pinnacle boss fights, as well as some mechanical changes that has occurred now with GGG basically reworking these 4 leagues. Let's kick things off with the Expedition mechanic. So now that we reach endgame, from the middle, we can access the Expedition league mechanic by going down, south, east pretty much. And you'll see the hub for the King's March right here. Quick lore info, King's March has been ruined pretty much, and as a result of this, Gwennen is also gone, and basically Rog, the husband of Gwennen, tells us to help him find her, essentially. So we are going out with a boat on an expedition. So the league mechanic is mainly going to be out in the sea. And right here we see one of the big mechanical changes to how Expedition is going to work, and that is namely the logbooks. So logbooks before used to be an item that you talk to Danig to open up a certain zone, and you basically did a bigger expedition of sorts instead of doing the smaller ones in maps. Now what logbooks does is open up, as you can see here, a big area at the in the ocean with different islands. And what we are looking for in the first step of this quest chain is this part right here, the deadly map boss marker. This is gonna lead us to Gwennen and the first boss fight. So once we reach Gwennen here, you'll see her standing, and she wants us to explore the vault that is on the island, which we do, and we basically end up fighting the first boss in the quest chain, which is Medved. After defeating Medved here, we get a logbook, and as you can see now, we, instead of just basically only exploring one way, we can opt to explore different parts of the ocean with one of the logbooks. The idea here is to pretty much search for the next boss fight. And as you can see, now with the changes to Expedition, there are multiple different events on the different islands, so we can also spawn a different kind of boss fights, different kind of mobs, different kind of events. And what used to be logbooks before are now called grand expeditions. So on one of the islands you'll see a grand expedition. That is basically how logbooks were used before. So they are not gone, they are just placed as a alternative event pretty much. The important part though is once we find the next vault and we get to fight the next boss, which is gonna be Uthred the Star Drinker. And once we kill him, we basically trigger the next part of the quest chain, which basically gets triggered here. You see like a meteor dropping down on one of the islands. We go and explore this island pretty much, and we are told we cannot access it. This basically means that we need to find a way to access it. And you guessed it, we are looking for the third boss in the quest chain now to unlock this place. So we keep exploring the map until we find this one, the Hero's Fall. And once again, we open up the third vault, and in here we will fight the last boss of this quest chain, leading us to the pinnacle boss, and that is gonna be Olroth. Once we finished Olroth, we can now break this energy here, giving us access to the pinnacle boss fight, which obviously looks like it is the spider that was teased earlier. And here's an example of a reward that we can get for said boss fight. We can redo this quest chain obviously by starting fresh, fighting the boss fights, getting access to the pinnacle again. This time around it's going to be a more difficult version of the boss. And this, you'll notice, is going to be something that pretty much is a thing with all the upcoming mechanics as well. So the quest boss is slightly easier. The next part of the boss, or the next time we fight the boss, is going to be harder. Obviously, what we don't know based off of what we've seen so far is how many times, like how much harder this boss gets, or if it's only 2 sets. So like a normal and an uber version. All right, so the next mechanic we're going to be discussing here is going to be Delirium. And same here, the first map you run, you and can counter delirium influence. You will also see Elder Maddox here with you. His mind is essentially locked in one of these mirrors, and we're gonna help him by freeing him pretty much. So once that is done, we get to talk to Elder Maddox, and he's basically gonna instruct us to head west and find a place called the Withered Willow, which we see right here. And in order to gain access, what we basically do is run one of the adjacent maps here that are influenced with delirium. Worth noting here as well, just a quick side note, is that you will also throughout the atlas see if you gain passive skill points for respective 3. So this basically tells us that we're going to get 1 passive point in the delirium passive skill tree upon finishing this map, for example. So that is something worth noting. So once that is done and we gain access to the Withered Willow, we get to talk to Elder Maddox again. And obviously we cannot enter the Pinnacle boss arena just yet. So we're basically told to keep unlocking more delirium maps, or doing more delirium influenced maps rather. So the objective here is pretty easy. You keep doing Deli influenced maps in order to reach right there that you see a grand mirror. Once we reach the grand mirror, it's a normal influenced map, but the map boss, as you can see here, is mirrored. So you're fighting 2 at the same time. Once they are done, you will see the grand mirror spawning here. We reach into it and take the fruit. And this basically unlocks the last part of the chain. So we're going to have a series of 4 maps being having delirium fog rather, and each of them being increasingly difficult. And at the end, we're going to reach what you see here is a simulacrum. So upon finishing the simulacrum, we will get rewarded with a Raven's Reflection. And once we have the Raven's Reflection, we can now head back to the Withered Willow and basically fight the Pinnacle boss. And that is pretty much all that is to know about the Delirium. In order to spawn the Uber version, you just keep doing Deli influenced maps here. And once you kill the map boss, you have a chance of spawning one of these grand mirrors once again to activate the chain and repeat. So the last thing I wanted to talk about here is also something worth noting. One of the changes here mechanically to Delirium is the bar down here that we see. This entire bar marks the entire progression of a Delirium. The marker down at the bottom is us and how we progress through it. The top markers here, this one is a blue shard, this is a red shard. And as you will see at the clip here, once we reach a blue shard and activate it, the monsters inside the map, or the Deli monsters specifically, get way stronger and tankier, but also more rewarding. And the red shard that you see here opens up a little portal. We go inside, we fight our way from point A to point B to get out again, fighting mobs pretty much. And that is pretty much it for the Delirium as a whole. Obviously, there are some special rewards and stuff tied to Delirium. I'm not going to be going over that too much in this video because that's more part of a crafting video that I have in mind. So we'll go on to the next one now. All right, so let's discuss Breach real quick. So once you get your first breach in a map, you get to talk to Aelith, and she will basically invite you to the monastery that you see here down on the southwest. Once talking to her, the objective is pretty easy. We do breaches in our maps, keep finishing them to gain our breach splinters mainly. And we need in total 300 of these breach splinters in order to unlock the breach strongholds on the atlas. So once your 300 splinters are collected, you put them all together. You get what is called a revelatory womb gift. This is something you bring back to the monastery and put into the Genesis tree to create a breach stone. And the breach stone is what you're going to use to reveal the breach stronghold. And from here on out, it's also pretty easy. We traverse our way into the middle here, where we get to fight the Breach Lords. So once we fight the Breach Lords here, and we finish that off, we just go back to the monastery, and now we gain access to the pinnacle boss fight, which is Zesht. In order to obviously do this part again, you basically follow the same steps from reaching 300 breach splinters, find an area where the breach stronghold is located to unlock it, kill the breach lords, and then you get to fight the harder version of Zesht pretty much. And that is going to be it in terms of how you progress through the quest line of Breach. All right, so last but not least, we are looking at Ritual. So upon doing our first ritual in the map, we will be talking to the spirit of Aoife, and essentially she tells us to go down west into the forest to locate the Wildwood. Once we're in here, we basically get our first objective, which is basically get enough tribute to get an audience with the king. So basically we face the King of the Mists to retrieve her body in the arena. And the way we go about this is pretty simple. We keep doing ritual in our maps, and with the tribute that we get, we obviously wanna click on this button down here, opt for tribute to the king, to fill up this bar at the bottom section here. Once this is full, we get an audience with the king. We basically get to fight the King of the Mists and retrieve Aoife's body. So once we have filled up our bar, we go deeper into the forest, we locate the King of the Mists, we end up fighting him, finishing him off, and retrieving Aoife's body here. So once we bring it back to the Wildwood, we have one last step to go to be able to gain access to the pinnacle boss fight for Ritual. So in the last part, we're doing 5 maps with Ritual in them. And the special thing about these 5 maps in a chain is that the last ritual is always going to be located in the boss arena. And that is significant because the upcoming maps are always going to have the same. So basically the last ritual is going to be in a boss arena. But the more interesting thing here is that the boss from the second map is going to be accompanied by the boss from the first map once you start the ritual. This essentially means that when you do map 3, 4, and 5, each of them will have the bosses from the previous maps. So the last map is basically going to be accompanied by all 5 bosses in the ritual area together. So once you end up finishing these last 5 map bosses all together, you basically have done what you need to access the ritual pinnacle boss. And obviously, if you want to do the harder version, you basically go about it the same way. So you get enough tribute offered for a King of the Mists fight. You do the 5 maps again. You get to fight the harder map boss or the pinnacle boss. And that is pretty much it for Ritual. One thing to note if we go back here real quick is that, as you can see now, the big mechanical change to Ritual is also that we are only going to be selecting from unique items and omens from now on from the Ritual tree, or reward tree rather. So that's pretty interesting as well. But that is it for pretty much all the 4 reworked league mechanics. Obviously, there are some parts here that are tied to crafting and other reward types that I'll be going over hopefully in a different video. But now you know how to traverse the quest chains for the reworked league mechanics. And that is that, guys. Thanks a lot for this one. Hopefully, I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one. Take care.